Come on. We will win. Because we will hit all game. We are motivated. We are dedicated. Come on now. Come on now. We will win. Because we are the best on the field. Then we hit the field like, all day like, all night like, on the blue light, offense like, defense like, his squad like, house call like, and it sound like, and it sound like, and it sound like.
Welcome to the Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today is Friday, February 24th, 2017. And after a week break, because we had to move studios, we're back. We are back, and I'm excited. We got a jam-packed show for you guys. Going to talk some college football news, the NFL news, and of course, we had the NBA trade deadline. We're going to talk about the winners and the losers of that. Also, quick news topic to talk about on Major League Baseball. For people that are going to be watching on YouTube, if you're not, be sure to go subscribe over there, youtube.com/The Short Sports Show. Check out the new setup. I like it. It's coming together. There's still a few more things I want to add. You know, I put everything together earlier this week, and I was like, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm standing up. I'm more open. It's better, but I feel like I'm missing something. And if you see something, let me know, because I want to add some more things. So we'll see what we can do. Maybe add a stripper pole. I don't know. Just kidding. But today what we're going to be talking about, Ole Miss finally gets a punishment, but could there be more? Also, the NBA trade deadline, we're going to talk about the winners and losers of that. The Buccaneers quarterback, Jameis Winston. What did he say to those little kids? You're going to, trust me, you're going to want to hear what he had to say. Again, we're going to have a new segment on this show. I'm excited. We're going to introduce it here in just a little bit. I like it. I like it a lot. And also next week, starting next week, we're going to have the full Short Sports Show, the entirety of it, on video on YouTube from now on. I'm excited. I got a couple things waiting. We're going to introduce it next week. So the entire show, so that way people who, if you love listening to the podcast, you continue to listen to it on the podcast. It'll still also be a audio version of it in full. But we're also going to add the entire show on video and, you know, make smaller segments and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. Finally, last bit of news. I'm looking for new sponsors for the show. I want to add a couple more sponsors to the show. Right now we have InnerGrind. We're going to continue with InnerGrind with Michael Rakpo in Houston, Texas. I'm going to continue with that. But I want to add a couple more now that we are going to the NBA season. We're going into Major League Baseball season. We had Sleeps before, which was went really well. So we're going to look at adding a few more of those. So I'm excited. And let's go ahead and start with the show, of course. College football news first. And that is Washington Huskies head coach Chris Peterson. He's filled out his staff. He added Matt Lubick, as his co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach. It was announced Wednesday. Now, he was just hired as Baylor's offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach in early January, but he's now, of course, resigned from that position to take the opening with Washington, and you can't blame him. You can't blame him. He goes back to the Pac-12. He was just at Oregon the past few years under Mark Helfrich, but after they all got let go, he was part of that staff. He got let go and is now, then signed with Baylor. Baylor looks like they're not going to get any NCAA punishment right now. But they're also going to have a pretty bad team compared to Washington. You go over to Washington, you already know that area, you recruit very well, and you take that same position, probably the same amount of pay, maybe a little bit more, and you go with a winning program now. Smart move by Matt Lubick to go ahead and take that and head over there. Former Auburn University football coach Tommy Tuberville, we all remember him, right? He is considering running for Alabama's governor in 2018. The 62-year-old Arkansas native told the Associated Press that he's discussing his options with potential backers. Now, he's awaiting some poll results to see what he gets back, and it's going to be interesting knowing that the state of Alabama, it's probably equally split. Right now, it's kind of hard to see it unless you live in Alabama, because we've seen the success that Alabama has, the Crimson Tide has, and we're thinking maybe there's just more fans of the Crimson Tide. There's still a good amount of backers for Auburn, and maybe they'll still like him. Maybe they'll vote for him. Tuberville, he coached at Auburn from 1999 to 2008 before finishing his career at Texas Tech and Cincinnati. He's among the most successful coaches in Auburn history, but he also got in a lot of disagreements with some of the boosters at that university. Now, he's never held an elected office position before, but describes his life in college football as being in politics for the last 40 years, end quote. Now, he would enter an Alabama political area, in case you haven't seen, it's pretty bad. It's really bad. Their governor is facing impeachment and allegations that he used state resources to pursue an affair. Yeah. And term limits bar Robert Bentley from running again next year. So it's wide open race for Tommy Tuberville if he wanted to step in. And that would be somewhat exciting. It really would. I just don't see that. Yeah. That was also bad. That was also bad on me. I probably cut that out. I coughed and laughed at the same time. Yikes. Well, we're off to a good start. Now, Ole Miss University facing some serious trouble, and it's really about time they got caught. Unless you've been living under a rock and you've been watching college football, and you haven't been watching college football for that fact, but if you have been watching college football and you've paid attention to it, I think we all kind of knew something was happening at Ole Miss. Now, of course, just about every university, every big program is paying student athletes to come to their university, which, before we get into another argument, I'm in favor of student athletes getting paid, right? But right now, it's illegal. It's against the rules, and Ole Miss just found out. I think we all knew that this was happening at Ole Miss, and I'm honestly shocked that it took this long for Ole Miss to get caught. I mean, when you have terrible seasons, when you're winning 4 or 5 games a year, and you somehow get Larry Tunsil, Laquan Treadwell, and several other top elite players, guys that are ranked in top 5 in their positions, and you pull them in, there's some questions, because it's like, what do they see in the program that's only won 4 or 5 games the past several years, really has no historical success, and they come to your school over Alabama, over big-time programs all across not only the SEC, but everywhere else. It raised some eyebrows. Now, they said this has a little bit to do with Larry Tunsil, but not too much. So the university is self-imposing a 1-year postseason ban starting in 2017, this upcoming college football season. So even if they go undefeated somehow, there's no college football playoff. There's no national championship this team can play for, nor a bowl game in that. The NCAA notice of allegations accused the school of lack of institutional control, and that the Rebels head coach Hugh Freeze failed to monitor his coaching staff. Now, the notice of allegations, which the university received Wednesday morning, included 8 new alleged rule violations and the lack of institutional control charge. So overall, 21 rule violations have happened by current or former members of the Rebels coaching staff. That's an issue. Here's some of the things. Now, the NCAA didn't accuse Freeze of personally violating the rules, only that he was responsible for the actions of his coaching staff, which, again, when you're the head coach, when you're the face of the program, the main guy, everything comes down on you. And he knows that. He's got to accept that, whether he was truly a part of this, which you got to think he was. And there's no shots at Ole Miss. I know other programs do it. It's kind of shocking it took this long, because they continue to do it even though they were told to stop before it got worse. And it got worse. Now, not only with that, also with that 1-year postseason ban, they have to forfeit their share of SEC postseason revenue, which could be as much as $7.8 million for the program. And also, Ole Miss has 90 days to respond to the new notice of allegations. A hearing with the infractions committee should take place sometime this summer. But here's the crazy part. It's not over for Ole Miss. Now, the committee of infractions could accept this just, the no $7.8 million, the no postseason revenue, and that postseason ban. They could just say, all right, maybe that's enough. Or they can add on to that. There's no taking away. That's the 1 year postseason ban and that pay, that's gone. But there could be more. And that also could include Hugh Freeze being suspended for multiple games in 2017. He could miss potentially 2 to 3 games to start the season along with this. So there's a lot more that could happen at Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss has also decided to say, you know what? Hey, we weren't the only program doing this. I know this is all looking bad on us, but we weren't the only ones. They have also called out their rival, Mississippi State, for having other rule violations. They're trying to bring them down as well, which that's going to be funny to watch over. But here are some of the additional charges that happened. Some of the I picked 3 that stood out to me out of the new 8 or 7 or 8 that came out. A former student athlete was allowed to hunt on a property owned by a booster while he was being recruited by the Rebels, and then again a few occasions after he enrolled at Ole Miss. I know some of these things, it's just how it is with the NCAA. A former Ole Miss staff member committed unethical conduct by providing false and misleading information to the university and the NCAA about his involvement in recruiting violations. Finally, an Ole Miss staff member arranged for a recruit to receive cash payments from 2 boosters totaling $13,000 to $15,600. Yeah. And I'm all in favor of student athletes getting paid in college. It's going to take some time. Until that happens, schools really can't pay them. They shouldn't pay them right now. At least, illegally, whatever. What was shocking about that, about the notice of allegations that Ole Miss received Wednesday, didn't include any additional alleged rule violations related to former offensive lineman Larry Tunsil. Now, we all remember what happened on draft day and how some of those text messages, those screenshots on his Instagram account appeared to request money from an Ole Miss assistant athletic director, John Miller, for rent, and so that Tunsil's mother could pay her a $305 electric bill. Now, that's not part of it, which is kind of shocking that none of that has nothing to do with anything. Tunsil was also in in 3 more serious allegations made by the NCAA last year. He was suspended for the first 7 games of 2015 season after he used 3 loaner cars with no cost during a 6-month time period. The NCAA also alleged that he also received an interest-free loan for a $3,000 payment for a purchase that he used on the same car dealer. So a lot of things happening at Ole Miss. My take is just I'm shocked that it took this long. And that I'm also not going to be surprised if there's more punishments. I'm not going to be surprised if Hugh Freeze is suspended for 2 games in 2017. And it'll obviously be the first 2 games, whatever they may be, on the schedule with me right now. But it's just one of those things. And what happens with maybe Mississippi State, there's maybe I doubt the NCAA moves very slow on these type of things. So I doubt Mississippi State has anything to really worry about. But they might want to back up if anything happens with if they're paying anybody. So it's very interesting to see and have this all happen. So we'll have to check it out. We'll have to check it out and see what goes down at Ole Miss. But I'm not an Ole Miss hater. I just don't like playing them. TCU always plays them. If it's baseball, basketball, football, it's like its own little rivalry that kind of gets annoying. All right, so time for the new segment that I like to introduce, and it's called That's What Time It Is. Now, in That's What Time It Is, what I'm going to start doing right now, we're just kind of testing it out, kind of see how you guys like it. be sure to tweet me at Short Sports Show to let me know. Also become a fan on Facebook, The Short Sports Show. So the idea of this is that in less than 2 minutes, I will go on a small, tiny little bit of rant that goes and talks about different things. Now, I might just do one each week. I'll do one per week, of course. But I'm thinking about maybe, 1 week we'll do maybe college football. Next week we'll do the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. Or maybe we'll just do all combined. I don't know. It just depends what happens throughout that week and what the news is. So we're going to go ahead and start today. And you guys are going to let me know how you like it and what you would like to see more of. Would you like to see more of it? So here we go. Starting now. David Fester, the coach in Louisiana who famously banned Alabama's recruiters from visiting his high school, has been fired. Now, the Parkway High School principal, Waylon Bates, said in a statement released Friday that he and Fester, quote, do not share the same philosophy or vision for the school's athletics. Like, seriously, he stands up to a top program and he loses his job. Now, I understand he went too far by, quote, banning them from from coming to their high school, but he had a right to call out and state some of the things that are wrong with recruiting. We saw what happened at Ole Miss. He just doesn't want his players getting caught up in something bad. Maybe there's something more that the NCAA and that others need to look into with Alabama and how they recruit some players. Now, of course, it really isn't that hard for Alabama to recruit players because you talk to any student athlete and if they're offered by Alabama, 90% of them are saying, yeah, I'm going to go there. I don't know why. I'd rather go to California, but hey, that's just me. So that's what I just have a problem with him losing his job. Yeah, he could have, done something else and made a bigger statement. And it probably would have done a lot more. Plus, it would have saved his job. But Fester told the newspaper that he made the decision under the school's previous principal because of what he felt was unethical recruiting practices by the Crimson Tide. He also, and it's not like he's just a bad coach, they reached the Louisiana Class 5A state championship in 2013 as he was the head coach. So, hey, he's a good coach, and he gets fired for this? Come on, man. Former Purdue interim coach Jared Parker, was the front runner to become East Carolina's wide receivers coach. He's not going to be hired by ECU after his arrest Tuesday. Parker was hired by Cincinnati last month as the Bears running backs coach, but he resigned on Friday with the intention of joining ECU's coaching staff. I mean, come on, bruh. How are you going to go and quit a job, even if you have the intention of signing and it's pretty much about to happen? Sign the paper first. You're always taught to sign the contract first before quitting. Now he's screwed. He has nowhere to go, and more programs are cracking down on coaches getting DUIs and DWIs, so he's got nowhere to go. He's out of a coaching job. Cincinnati's not going to rehire him. Come on, bro. A grand jury in Waco, Texas declined to indict former Baylor Associate Athletic Director Heath Nielsen, who was arrested and charged with allegedly assaulting a reporter on the field following the Bears' 62-22 loss to TCU at home on November 5th. Now, Nielsen, who served as Baylor's sports information director for football until recently, was charged with a misdemeanor assault with bodily injury. Nielsen allegedly confronted reporter James McBride on the field while he was taking a photograph with an unidentified Baylor football player. McBride, who writes for the Blaze News in Keller, Texas, told police that Nielsen grabbed him by the throat with his right hand, squeezed and pushed him away from the football player. That warrant said McBride had visible scratches from his neck and complained about pain around his throat. Quote, I had asked the player if I could take a photo with him, and he said yes. I was leaning back to take a photo. I heard somebody who I didn't know at the time yell right from my right-hand side, saying no interviews on the field, end quote. But he wasn't the only athletic official to get away unharmed from the recent incidents at Baylor. Former Baylor athletic director Ian McCall, who resigned as part of his involvement with the Baylor sexual assault scandal, was named Liberty's AD in November. And guess what? You know what he's doing now? Well, obviously that. He's helping, bunny ears, Liberty move from FCS to FBS. I mean, how does this guy even have a job? He was part of a mishandle of sexual assaults at Baylor, and now he's a head guy for an athletic department for young men and women student athletes. It's just sick. And Liberty is a private, nonprofit Christian university. Come on, bruh. And that's what time it is. Today's show is sponsored by InnerGrind. Based out of Houston, Texas, let former Texas State linebacker Michael Rakpo help you reach your fitness and nutrition goals. With personal training classes that start at $40 a session, why not be a part of this rising program? And whether your goals are to lose weight, gain muscle mass, find the right off-season program, or even for you ladies out there to get that booty blast, you can do it all with InnerGrind. Not a Houston area, not a problem. InnerGrind has a program that is personalized just for you. InnerGrind has everything you need to meet your personal and healthy goals. NFL linebackers like Titans Brian Orakpo, Chiefs Derek Johnson, Buccaneers running back Charles Sims, and San Diego Chargers cornerback Craig Mager, along with many other young athletes, have already begun. Find your personalized workout and nutrition plan at InnerGrind.com and call 832-475-2829. That's InnerGrind.com, 832-475-2829. Unleash your inner grind. So we went, a little bit longer than 2 minutes, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, but I liked it. I want to see what you guys have to say about it. I'm really interested to hear. Moving on to the NFL, Minnesota Vikings general manager Rick Spielman said the team has not talked to Adrian Peterson or his agent about the running back's contract for the 2017 season, but Spielman said no matter what happens with Peterson in the next 2 weeks, quote, Adrian will always be a Minnesota Viking, end quote. In other words, he'll always be remembered as a Minnesota Viking because we're not paying him the $18 million or whatever $18 million that he wants in 2017. Now, Peterson, who turns 32 on March 21st, has a team option for the 2017 season that would pay him $18 million and trigger a $6 million roster bonus if he's on the roster by the third day of the league year. Now, the Vikings, they have to make a decision on Peterson's option by the start of the league year on March 9th. Now, Peterson, he said he wants to be back in Minnesota. But if you paid attention to his social media and some of the interviews he's had, he's been keeping an eye on a number of other teams. You're looking at the Giants. You remember he had those eye emoji looking at the Giants and what they were doing, cutting Rashad Jennings and a few others. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a potential option, and the Houston Texans. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys have been rumored how he can be a mentor to Ezekiel Elliott and how he would split time and how he's always wanted to be a Cowboy. I mean, there's a lot of options for Peterson, and he knows it. The thing is, the $18 million, he's not getting paid $18 million next year. The Vikings aren't paying him that. He's going to have to restructure the contract if he stays in Minnesota. If he decides to test, and most likely if that happens, the only way that happens is he goes out to free agency because he knows he's going to look for the best deal, money-wise. And maybe other teams offer him more money than Minnesota. I don't see him in a Vikings uniform in 2017 because the Vikings understand they're in a critical situation right now. They're a team that's obviously we saw in the first half of the season. They're very close. They were a top team. They were one of the best teams. They started off 5-0, 6-0, and then just collapsed after that. But you have the situation with Teddy Bridgewater. You don't even know if he's ever going to play football again. But if he does, and he plays if he is able to come back and heal up and play to the potential that he was at that high level, that's your franchise quarterback. Then you have to look at Sam Bradford, who most likely is going to be your quarterback for next season. And he is, we got some breaking news. Chiefs sign free agent CJ Spiller. Some breaking news coming in right now. Back to Sam Bradford. He's got 1 year left on his contract. We all know Sam Bradford can barely stay healthy. Barely did it in 2016. He's going to want not only more money, but he's going to want more years. He needs safety for him because he knows He's also a liability. So the Vikings are in a critical area at this time. Also, Spielman has said that this is the best running back class in 2017 in this NFL draft class. So it really looks like, you know what? Peterson, we love you. We want you to stay. We're going to sit down and make serious contract discussions with you, but you're not getting $18 million. We can't do it as a franchise, and we hope you understand. That's got to be the conversation. And Peterson, he's got to sit down and really think about it to himself. I'm not getting $18 million from the Vikings, and guarantee he's not getting $18 million from any other team, at least in 1 year. Do I want to stay in Minnesota and retire and play it out, or do I want to go off to another team and just hope for the best, whatever money I can get? I would like to see him with the Giants. I think that would be awesome with him and Odell. Obviously, Eli Manning, they need a running back. If they can get Peterson, then that opens up a lot of things come draft day and getting, drafting some offensive linemen. They're obviously going to need a D lineman depending on if Hankins leaves or if JPP leaves. So it's going to be interesting for Peterson and the Vikings. Now, and again, he's looking at Tampa Bay as well. That's an interesting option. Doug Martin's most likely gone. But something that happened with Tampa Bay and their star quarterback, Jameis Winston, very bad wording. And before people go crazy and say, I'm not throwing shade at Jameis Winston, I'm also not defending him either, because he understands that he said something very stupid. It was phrased stupidly, really. And his agent needs to make sure that Jameis Winston does a better job of and taking some public speaking classes, because he's got to get this fixed. This could have been a lot worse than what it looks like it's going to end up being. Now, while speaking to third through fifth graders at an elementary in St. Petersburg, Florida, Winston called on male students to stand up while directing females to stay seated. Now, that's not the big thing, because he was just trying to get a little pump-up speech to the male students. It was nothing about females, just sit down. It was nothing that. But this is what he had to say, quote, "All my young boys stand up. The ladies sit down. But all my boys stand up. We strong, right? We strong, right? All my boys, tell me one thing. I can do anything I put my mind to. Now, a lot of boys aren't supposed to be soft-spoken. You know what I'm saying? One day, y'all are going to have a very deep voice like this." He then proceeds to say it in a deep voice. I'm sorry. One day, you'll have a very deep voice. But the ladies, they're supposed to be silent, but polite, gentle. My men are supposed to be strong. I want y'all to tell me what the third rule of life is. I can do anything I put my mind to, end quote. Now, of course, to the guys, it's a very, to those young boys, hey, be strong, great, all that good stuff. Problem is when he says polite, gentle, cool, that's fine to say, I guess. I don't know, 2017, it seems like that could be, wrong, apparently. But the wrong thing is to say they're supposed to be silent. That's what screws everything up, and that's the big problem. Now, Winston, he later tried to clarify that he was trying to motivate a particular male student without singling him out. Quote, "I was trying to make an effort to interact with a young male in the audience who didn't seem to be paying attention. I didn't want to single him out, so I asked all the boys to stand up. During my talk, I used poor word choice that may have overshadowed that positive message for some," end quote. Now, of course, he didn't mean how it came out, but his agent, of course, needs to make sure Winston takes some public speaking classes to get that fixed, because that was terrible. That was really bad to say that, and I'm happy that this didn't get blown up by him just saying, being a sexist or whatever. I'm glad it didn't get blown up like that, because something like this easily could have. And maybe it's just, now Jameis Winston is a star, but maybe he's not the star of, let's say, had LeBron James said this, had Tom Brady said this, had someone at that elite level had said this, maybe that's where it would have blown up the way I think a lot of us thought it could have. Thankfully, it didn't, though. I'm glad it didn't, but that could have been really bad. So I'm glad it didn't, but yikes. Another topic, the NFL is loving Mexico, and Mexico is loving the NFL. And, you know, I'm not going to get political, but Trump's going to have to deal with that. Check this out. The Houston Texans versus the Oakland Raiders game in Mexico City in November, this past November, generated an increase of $45 million in the city's gross revenues. That one game. $45 million. That's not bad. A league commission study by the sports industry group of Ernst and Young used a range of sources, including the NFL post-event surveys of fans who attended the game and a wider economic data on Mexico's economy. It determined that Monday night drew a crowd of 76,473 people and included 9,500 international fans, mainly from the United States, as well as 21,500 visitors who traveled elsewhere in Mexico. On average, each international visitor spent more than 5 days in Mexico. Reason this is a big deal. The total domestic and international tourist spending was $43 million, of which $32 million was incremental to Mexico City's economy. That's big time. Now, the NFL, they're doing their best. They hadn't played there before last year. They hadn't played there since 2005. They're coming back to Mexico City this season with the Raiders hosting the New England Patriots. It's going to be a big game, and with the Patriots being obviously the Super Bowl champions, a bigger team, could see an increase of more people possibly, especially people from the Northeast want to come down to the South and get some good sun and enjoy the weather. Raiders, they're obviously growing. They're going to be talked about, seeing if they're staying in Oakland or moving to Las Vegas. What could happen by that time? Could we be calling them the Las Vegas, with a little asterisk, Las Vegas Raiders soon? It's a big deal. It's a big game. I'm glad the NFL is in Mexico, and I'm glad that not only did the NFL had good out of it, that Mexico City generated that much. I mean, that's huge. That's awesome to see. And hopefully they keep it going. Now, San Francisco's new general manager, John Lynch, which I think we talked about this before. I know I talked to my pops about this because we had an interesting discussion about this. But I wasn't, I'm a little shocked that John Lynch got the job. No disrespect to John Lynch. I'm a fan of him. And I hope he succeeds. And I'm hoping he can turn around the San Francisco 49ers. Is going to be a tough deal because that roster, in my opinion, is the worst in the NFL. But I was shocked that he got the job over any other applicant, just because of the fact that he has no true experience in front office management, at least significant experience. But anyways, he's obviously now the new general manager, and he was speaking to KNBR radio in San Francisco. And he confirmed that he and head coach Kyle Shanahan met with Colin Kaepernick on Wednesday afternoon. Now, Lynch declined to offer specifics of the discussion out of respect for Kaepernick, but this is what he had to say.
You guys met with Colin Kaepernick today. You can confirm or deny that if you choose. But my question to you is, you said that you would have an honest discussion with Colin Kaepernick. Can you give us the frameworks of what an honest discussion with Colin Kaepernick either is or was, if you had it today?
Yeah, we did. I'm sitting in the very chair, and I'm looking across at the chair he sat, and Kyle Shanahan was in here as well. And I would characterize it as just a really positive discussion. I think we from the start, Kyle and I have committed. I was a player once, and you just want to be honest. You want people to be honest with you, and so we committed to doing that. We also committed to, what we talked about remaining between us, and so. I'm not talking, out of both sides of my mouth because I say, hey, we're going to be transparent. But I do think that there's some things that are sacred. We had a great discussion, and I think Colin left excited. We left excited. And I think as Kyle and I really believe that the evaluation process is still very much fluid. And we've only been on the job a couple weeks, and I can tell you that we both really very much enjoyed being around Colin, and he seems like he's in a real good place.
Now, the meeting comes a little more than a week from when Kaepernick will have the ability to opt out of his contract and become a free agent. It is expected that Kaepernick will take that opportunity to explore his options, but he could still theoretically return to return to San Francisco if Lynch and Shanahan view that as the best option. Some of the bigger deal out of it is just the money aspect. Him getting a ridiculous amount of money, I believe $17 million for 1 year, $17.5. It's the same thing, but just like the Vikings, the 49ers are not going to pay him that. They have the third overall pick in the NFL draft. They can go get, the second overall pick. They can go and get a quarterback if they would like. A little early, but they could go and get draft a quarterback instead of going with Kaepernick. I believe Kaepernick, I think there's still a really good shot he stays in San Francisco. Based on what you heard from that interview and what I'm hearing from other reporters out in the West, it's sounding like Kaepernick likes the hire of John Lynch. He likes Kyle Shanahan. They've gotten along. The day that Lynch was hired, Kaepernick called Lynch to set up that interview to talk to each other about the future for each other and the team. I mean, that says something about Kaepernick and that he's taking initiative, that he's not just, hey, either pay me my money or I'll go elsewhere. He's not just sitting around. He's actually looking to do something productive and potentially stay with the team. So I really think there's more of a chance of him staying in San Francisco than there is of him leaving. I think there's a really good shot that he stays in San Francisco. Of course, it's not going to be on the contract that they have right now, and Kaepernick will have to make that decision to say, look, I'm not going to – it's the same thing with Adrian Peterson. I'm not getting a contract like this anywhere else. Cleveland will not give Colin Kaepernick anything similar to what he has right now. It's just not going to happen. So he's got to be realistic and say, look, I like who's in charge. I believe in this change. I can be a leader here. I'm going to change. So let's just renegotiate the contract. And maybe even still test out free agency. He's going to have to test it out. Test out free agency. See what happens. Talk to others. Open it up. And then, have serious conversations of staying in San Francisco. I think that's the best thing for him to do. It'll be interesting to see how he goes about that. Now, moving on to the NBA, we have winners and losers of the NBA trade deadline. The NBA trade deadline passed Thursday with several big names, including Jimmy Butler, Paul George, who else? Carmelo Anthony, all staying put. All stayed put. Which, in this year's trade deadline, it didn't seem like it had that much speculation that we've had in the past. It's just kind of like, nah, it's just not happening. Now, sources told ESPN earlier Thursday that Paul George at this point is not prepared to commit to any long-term future to any other team other than the Pacers or his hometown Los Angeles Lakers. Now, obviously, that trade didn't go through because the Lakers knew, one, they wanted to keep their draft picks, and seeing what's going to happen with that projected top third overall pick, that's looking a little risky right now. So they kind of wanted to say, you know what, Paul George, there's a really good shot you're coming to us next year anyways, or in 2 years. So why give up something that we really need for right now? The Boston Celtics, they have been rumored for a potential landing spot for Jimmy Butler as well as Paul George. Now, Boston had let teams know before the deadline that the 2017 draft pick of the NBA's worst Brooklyn Nets, which the Celtics owns thanks to that Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade, which happened in 2013. Shockingly, I didn't know the picks, the draft picks went this far. It happened in 2013. They still, I was shocked to see that. That was still in play. But President of Basketball Operations, Danny Ainge, opted to hang tight and say, Nah. He said, quote, "We had a lot of conversations. There were things that we could do to improve our team, but nothing was good enough to do," end quote. Now, the Knicks and Timberwolves, they discussed a Rose for Ricky Rubio swap. That didn't fall through. Or it did fall through. It didn't happen. The Knicks opted to hang on to Carmelo Anthony. Of course, that was for the past several weeks, past couple months. It's been talked about with his relationship with Phil Jackson that he would end up getting out somehow and possibly looking at the Cavaliers. Cavaliers really couldn't do anything. But so those were kind of not really losers, but not winners. Now, the winners of trade deadline were simple. The Dallas Mavericks, they traded center Andrew Bogut to the Philadelphia 76ers for forward Nerlens Noel. That's huge. Noel, only 22 years old in his third NBA season. He's averaging 8.9 points, 5 rebounds, and 29 games. Now, he struggled with the 76ers to get on the court because for some reason, the 76ers decided to draft Jahlil Okafor and Joel Embiid, and they had Nerlens Noel all playing the same position. It's like, well, how am I supposed to get on the court? Now, Noel, he's going to have a chance to learn from future Hall of Famer Dirk Nowitzki. That'll help the Mavs move on later in the future. And Nowitzki, he liked it. He said, quote, "He's an athletic, big, he's young, he's got a lot of potential." That's what he said Thursday about Noel. That's huge. Now, Noel, he will be a restricted free agent at the end of the year, after next season, which means the Mavericks can offer him more money than any other team. And Dallas can also match any offer sheet. That's huge. And, of course, sources said after the trade that they were already working on a long-term deal, so they didn't have to wait, and that they were just going to get something locked up here pretty soon. So, being that's already been a day, depending on when you're watching this, this on Friday, so it should have happened by now. Also, the New Orleans Pelicans, they got Boogie Cousins. They got some help for Anthony Davis. I like that trade a lot. That helps them out. They had their first game together. They didn't get the W, but everybody looked okay, and it's going to take time. But this helps them push forward for that 8th seed in the NBA playoffs, which they're going to need. And they have to go, I believe now, they've got to go 15-9 in the rest of their games. I think it was 15-10 before Thursday night's game, which they lost. So now they got to go 15-9 from now to just get there. They got to play the Denver Nuggets 3 times. 3 more times. They played them first game of the season. They lost that. Now they have a chance to play them. So that helps them out a whole lot. Another trade that I liked was between the Bulls and the Thunder. Bulls, not so much. I don't think that was the greatest trade for them. But for the Thunder, Russell Westbrook now got some help. You got Taj Gibson. You also have McDermott, who can shoot out there. That gives more weapons and more options for Russell Westbrook to facilitate the team. I like this. Put another push for the NBA playoffs, a better seeding for Russell Westbrook and the Thunder. And really, the life without KD, it's obviously not going to finish out what could have been with Kevin Durant. But there's a lot of positives out of this, and there's a lot of hope with Russell Westbrook leading the team. So I believe the Mavericks, the Thunder, and the Pelicans were the winners of the trade deadline. Some of the losers could have been the Knicks, the Bulls. I think that's really about it. I think Boston Celtics were fine. Lakers, they made a couple moves, and we're going to talk about them here in just a second. But the Lakers are going to be Lakers. We'll talk about that just right now. Now, of course, Magic Johnson. Can Magic Johnson rebuild the Lakers back to glory? Can he put the Magic back into Los Angeles? Quote, "I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't a good situation. I understand what I'm up against, but I'm here. I'm here for the long haul. And eventually, we will turn it around," end quote. That's what Magic Johnson, the Lakers' new president of basketball operations, said Tuesday afternoon at the team's practice facility. Now, Johnson, he originally planned to meet with longtime general manager Mitch Kupchak and executive president of basketball operations Jim Buss on Tuesday. I'm sure he did. Instead, the team announced that those two had been kicked out the door, and Magic Johnson took over and it didn't take long. He ended up hiring Kobe Bryant's agent, Rob Pelinka, as a new general manager for the Los Angeles Lakers. That we'll talk about here in just actually, we'll go ahead and talk about that right now. So, as a Lakers fan, I'm happy with the Magic Johnson hiring. I'm okay with it. I believe the reason, while people are saying, well, he's never really, other than actually playing basketball, he's never really been that successful at anything else. Here's my thing, and here's my reason why he will be successful with the Los Angeles Lakers. Because one, can't get much worse than you are right now. That's bright side. Hashtag bright side. That's a step right there to know that you can't really get much worse than you are right now. So you only got up to go. That's it. I believe he's going to be able, and just, there's a lot of big names coming out 2 to 3 years from now. A lot of big names, a lot of contracts coming up. He can easily, and he's more relatable to the players, not only because he played, he just has that in him where he can convince other players to say, hey, you want to come over here? I believe if Magic Johnson had been in charge at this time a couple of years ago, LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, would have signed with the Lakers. And I'm not, just because I'm a Lakers fan, I'm not going to go and say, oh, we would have got LeBron James, Kevin Durant, we would have been the super team. No. I'm realistic on this. But I believe in 2 to 3 years from now, when some of those big names do come up, he's going to be able to say, hey, we can make it work here. You can be. He's going to pitch them the perfect sayings and everything they need. The Rob Pelinka hiring as a general manager, maybe that's just me, but that's where I'm a little concerned. A former agent, he's got to cut ties as being an agent, of course, now a general manager. He obviously he knows contracts. Knows how to get the right contracts for the players. So that's a good thing. My thing is him talking with other agents, him trying to get other players, and them saying, hey, I know how you work. This is the deal we're going to want. If you guys need us more than we need you. And I know he knows how to negotiate. He's obviously Kobe Bryant's agent, so he's a smart guy. I'm just a little bit worried that maybe it'll rub off the wrong way when Magic Johnson pitches everything perfect, and then it comes into Rob Pelinka to get these deals done, and something just doesn't connect. The stitching just falls apart, and they aren't able to get other players, top elite players. Maybe that's just me. I think that's just me. I haven't talked to any other Lakers fans who feel bad. I think everybody really kind of likes this hirings. Some other moves that they had, they sent reserve guard Lou Williams, the sixth man, to the Houston Rockets for Corey Brewer and a first-round draft pick. That's huge because the Lakers, it looks uncertain that the Lakers are going to get that projected top third lottery pick. And that was going to be their only first-round pick. If it wasn't a top 3 overall pick, there's no first round for the Lakers. And in this draft, they need one. And hopefully it can still get it. Now, with that trade to the Houston Rockets, they get the Rockets' first-round pick. So they now guarantee have a first-round pick, but they could also still get that top third overall pick. That would be huge for the Lakers. That's the win-win scenario. And that's why they're more, saying, hey, kind of in a way, we don't care about the season. That's why Nick Young was on the trading block towards the end of the trade deadline, because they're like, he's a great player. It's costing a lot of money, though. We could send him out, suck for the rest of the season, increases our chances of getting that top third projected pick, and you can make something happen. I like the guy from Washington. I know he's going to be number 1 overall. I'm hoping somehow the Lakers can get him. Fultz, his first name starts with the M. You guys can let me know in the comment section. So what else? Something that also kind of threw me off, though, with the Magic Johnson hiring was this, that he said Magic says he wants to empower his general manager, Pelinka, to make decisions, but he also noted, quote, anything to do with trades, the draft is, of course, going to end with me, Magic Johnson. I'm a control freak. You don't get to where I am without being one. I'm going to make sure that I set the strategy, that I set the tone, and that this organization is going to be about excellence on and off the court. End quote. That it kind of worries me on that. The control thing. I just don't. What I'm worried about is that this looks so great and it's too good to be true, and that there's just more bumping heads, that there's more problems in the end, and things fail again. That's what I'm worried about. I understand it's going to take a few years. Lakers fans, you got to also understand it's still going to be several years. It's still, Magic Johnson said, it's going to be 3 to 4 years till they're serious NBA championship contenders. That might even be too soon. That might be even too soon. I think 2 years from now, if the Lakers are not in the playoffs, there's going to be some serious discussions. There's going to be some fire with that. It's going to be a problem. But in the long run, I think we're going to be fine. I hope we're going to be fine. You also got to tell yourself, it really can't get much worse than this. But then again, maybe it can. Maybe it can. Final bit of news here. Major League Baseball news Major League Baseball intends to give Players the Association the required 1-year advance notice that could allow management to unilaterally change the strike zone, install pitch clocks, and limit trips to the pitcher's mound starting in 2018. Things I think we can all agree on here. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred made the announcement Tuesday after union head Tony Clark said last weekend he did not foresee players agreeing to the proposed changes for 2017. Under baseball labor's contract, management can alter playing rules only with agreement from the union, unless it gives a 1-year notice. With a 1-year notice, management can make changes on its own. Manfred said he will send a letter to the union in the coming days and plans to continue dialogue with Clark and others in hopes of reaching an agreement. Quote, unfortunately, it now appears that there really won't be any meaningful change for the 2017 due to the lack of cooperation from the MLBPA. That's what he said during a news conference. Now, MLB has studied whether to restore lower edge of the strike zone from just beneath the kneecap to its pre-1996 level at the top of the kneecap. Now, management would like to install a 20-second pitch clock in an attempt to speed the pace of the game. And it's already been used in AAA and AA for the past 2 seasons. I think we can all agree with that. We have a play clock in basketball, and we have same thing play clock in football to speed up the game, to not have things slow down. This would be huge if that can happen. Players have also been against limiting mound meetings. I think that's something that also needs to happen. Just like you have limited amount of timeouts in football and in basketball. These are basically timeouts. Needs to be limited. 5, 6 mound meetings throughout the game. And the extra innings, if you already used all of those, you get 2 more, 3 more. Just like how it is in the NFL with the timeouts and with the NBA. The least controversial change appears to be allowing a team to call for an intentional walk without the pitcher having to throw pitches. Now, Major League Baseball proved that the change to intentional walk rule from the traditional 4-pitch walk to a dugout signal. Now, at first, I was in favor of this. I liked this. I was like, yeah, heck yeah, this is perfect. No one likes seeing the 4 pitches. Until I saw one of the Major League Baseball players, who name slips away, tweet saying, hey, I scored on a game-winning run because of a wild pitch on an intentional walk. Now that takes an element out the game because it was on ESPN, and they started showing both college baseball and the Major League Baseball of players and teams winning off of wild pitches on an intentional walk. Now that changes everything because it is, you think, oh, well, they're just tossing it. It's just 4 pitches tossing it. And I get it does kind of slow down the game. And it does make it simple. Just say, hey, tap the wrist 3 times or whatever it is, saying, hey, we're walking. That makes it simple. It speeds up the game. Perfect. Thing is, it does take away that element. But again, it is a rarity, so maybe it's not too much where anybody's ever going to notice. But it is something to think about. So that's already happening, though. That is changing in 2017. This upcoming Major League Baseball season, which is just right around the corner, it will be from the traditional 4-pitch walk to now a dugout signal. That is happening for sure this season. That's it for today's show, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're listening to iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, whatever it might be, thank you guys so much. Share it with your friends and family. Follow me on Twitter at Short Sports Show. Become a fan on Facebook, The Short Sports Show. And I will see you guys next Friday morning. As always, God first, God bless. And I will see you guys then. Peace.